Good evening and welcome to tonight's Meadville Tribune Forum for the Democratic candidates running for Meadville City Council. We welcome those in the audience here at Active Aging in Meadville, as well as those watching on Armstrong Cable and those listening on Cool 101.7 FM. I'm Keith Gushard, one of the reporters at the Meadville Tribune, and with me is Rick Green. He's the editor of the paper. Now, before we start, we would ask everybody take a moment to turn off the cell phone just so we don't have any unnecessary ringing and create a distraction when the candidates are answering the questions, please. We thank you very much for that. And we do appreciate the candidates appearing with us this evening to be questioned about important issues facing the city of Meadville. With us this evening are Jack Harkless, Larry McKnight, Autumn Vogel, and Jan Bilas. And what we're going to do is allow each candidate up to a 3-minute introduction of themselves, and then we'll begin questioning the candidates. When we start the round of questioning, the candidates will have up to 2 minutes to answer. They don't have to take the full 2 minutes. I remind them that I've got the infamous yellow piece of paper. That's when you'll have 30 seconds to go. And then if we have to, like soccer, the red card, we make you stop. So again, we appreciate everybody being here. We appreciate everybody here in the audience as well. Jack, we'll start with you, and you have up to 3 minutes to tell us about yourself.
All right, well, the first thing I'd like to do is thank the Tribune for hosting, and I'd like to thank Cool 101 and Armstrong for covering this event. I've found that this journey has been very interesting. I've never done anything like running for a political position before. It's the only job where you just have to talk about yourself to everybody all the time and pat yourself on the back a lot. So without further ado, let me do just that and tell you about myself. I went to school here. I grew up here. I also graduated from Allegheny College with a bachelor's in communications and a minor in political science. I've done a lot of things job-wise over the years. I lifeguarded for 6 years, then I worked for half a decade at a juvenile placement facility. But right now I'm a program specialist for the Barber National Institute. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's we take care of individuals with intellectual disabilities. I oversee all of the group homes in the Corey site for them. I have my family here with me, although I think Finn has run off somewhere with my father, but I don't think he was going to sit for this whole event anyway. He's not toddler phase. But that's something that's kind of driven me to do this, has been my family all along the way. I want to be able to create a better tomorrow for my child, my future children, and the children of the people who want to start lives here too. Because I don't think that this city is just something that is to be put by the wayside. I've seen it grow immensely in the past 5 to 10 years. I used to play cards at this little comic book store when I was a kid over on North Street. And one of the things that I very vividly remember about it is how it was not well lit, and there was just lots of bars and country fare. And now it's this gorgeous, well-lit street. And those things don't happen in places where people don't care, where people have given up. I'm an Eagle Scout. I'm the vice chair of the Crawford County Democratic Committee. I've worked with my Meadville, and I feel like this was just my next opportunity to continue serving the community, that civic responsibility, if you will. That's pretty much all I have to say about myself. I'm here to take the next step.
All right, thank you. Next up is Larry McKnight. Larry?
I'd like to thank everyone. I'd like to thank Meadville Tribune, Cool 101.7, and all of you for coming. I'm born and raised here in Meadville, went to Meadville High School. I graduated from Meadville. I attended Edinburgh College. I attended and graduated from Teal College. I've had various jobs in the social service, and one of the most important jobs that allowed me to hear about Meadville was a driver for CATA. I drove a lot of people from low income to moderate income and some high income, but one of their main concerns were the conditions that Meadville was in. And being a lifelong person, I love this area. I know what it has been and what it can be again. And I want to be a part of bringing Meadville back to a place where we can raise our children, we can have family homes, we can have a good place here again. I think it's important that we become involved in our community. If you're not involved in your community to make it better, or you're just wasting your time. You have no reason to complain. and I'm not going to be a person that complain and not get out and try and do something.
Thank you. Autumn, you're up next.
I'll start by reiterating thanks. Thanks to Armstrong and Cool for making this accessible to folks. Thanks for Meadville Tribune for hosting this. Thanks for Active Aging for letting us be here. And thanks to the folks that are watching either here tonight or at home. It's great that you're interested and involved, and this is a really great turnout, and I'm excited to see folks. My name's Autumn Vogel. I live in town by the intersection of Park and Baldwin, and I've lived here for 8 years. I came to Meadville to go to Allegheny College in 2011. I studied psychology and values, ethics, and social action. After I graduated in 2015, I started working in town. I worked as the Second Saturday Community Market Coordinator. I worked as the Year of Meadville organizer for Allegheny College. I served as the Community Development Coordinator for the Redevelopment Authority. I coordinated the My Meadville Community Listening Initiative, and I'm currently a barista at Taro Bean Roasting Company. And through all of this work, I've had a really rare and fortunate opportunity to hear from folks and to meet a lot of people. I've gotten to know residents, small business owners, parents, teenagers, educators, caregivers, service workers, and renters. And in my conversation with folks and through those relationships, two things have become really apparent to me. The first is that our town is facing some really big problems, and that in the face of those problems, we need new leaders who are ready to take creative steps to solve the problems that our community faces. And folks are ready to do that and be part of that work. The second thing that has become apparent to me is that there are two distinct constituencies in Meadville. There's the constituency of folks who participate, who are at the table, who have a hand in making decisions that affect all of us, and then there's the folks that aren't. There's the folks that haven't been for a long time. And my campaign, the campaign that I'm running in cooperation with Larry, is about those folks. And it's about getting those folks to engage and making it easier for folks to participate in making decisions for our town. That's the role, I believe, of city government. Through this work, I met Larry, and like I mentioned, we are running a cooperative campaign, one that's based on the things that we've heard from all the people that we know and have met. A campaign that's committed to addressing the big problems that our community faces, a campaign that's committed to transparent government, quality, affordable housing, and an investment in our public spaces and resources. We've made great progress in the last few years, and we want to make that progress permanent. We want to change the way we do business in this town, and we're hoping for your vote.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is Jan Bilas. Jan, you have up to 3 minutes.
I would also like to thank the Meadville Tribune, Armstrong Cable, Cool 101.7, the viewers at home, and also those in attendance here for giving all the candidates an opportunity to participate in this evening's forum. My name is Jan Bilas, and I am proud to say that I am a son of a true Pittsburgh steelworker from southwestern Pennsylvania. Because of my many relatives being Meadville residents for the past 40 years, I had the opportunity to visit the city many times before becoming a resident. I remember from a young age attending events around the market house, a true Meadville treasure. And for the past 4 years, I had the opportunity to live next door to this historical landmark in the Kepler Hotel. Over my teenage years, I enjoyed numerous artistic and musical events at Allegheny College, along with many trips to Conneaut Lake Park and Woodcock Dam. My family annually visited the beaches at Pymatuming and also Lake Erie. Meadville always from a young age had a special place in my heart. I was fortunate through a job opportunity to become a Meadville resident and now an active part of this community. Meadville has welcomed me, as all you have, and has become a special place. They have offered me many opportunities, and it has become truly my home. Now I have desire to give something back. For this reason, I am asking for your vote for Meadville City Council on Tuesday, May 21st. I have had the opportunity to make many professional and political connections in this short period of time, and many of those have grown into true friendships. City Council elections are important. The local level is we, as residents, can have the most impact on how our tax dollars are spent. I will hear your voice, I will listen with care, and I will work for you and the issues that are most important to you. We should all be active in the process that builds upon our progress to shape a positive future, because this is our Meadville. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to start the questioning with Jack here in a moment. Each of the candidates will have up to 2 minutes to answer the question. We drew lots to see who goes first. That's why you see them seated in the order they are in. And since we've done the introductions, we'll start the questioning. And again, we'll start with Mr. Harkless. Should the Meadville Area Water Authority fluoridate its water system? Why or why not?
I would have never guessed that this was going to be a question this evening. So, from my understanding, the reason that we fluoridated our water initially was because there was this huge outbreak of people needing dental care. People often who are less fortunate than others, the first thing that they don't have access to is top quality dental care, okay? So we were busing people over to Conneautville because there were so many people. That was, at the time, the #1 reason that people were going to the ER were dental-related incidents. So what did we do? We decided to fluoridate the water to help people, you know what I mean? So I don't think it's a question of good or bad. It was just a decision that was made at one point in time, and it did what it was supposed to do. That's all I have to say on that.
Okay, all right, thank you. Larry?
I agree somewhat with what Jack is saying. I think it's a matter of opinion as to whether or not it's good or bad. I think the most important thing was that the residents should have had more of a say-so in that. I don't think city government's position is to make decisions that affect our community without the input of the residents. Not only health reasons, tax reasons. Who's this burden going to fall on? If it's falling on the residents, then I think they should first be educated about the program, let them know what it really consists of, because rumors are going around about what it does, what it doesn't do. So if people are made aware of the pros and cons of it, they can make an educated decision based on that. And I think that's city council's role, is to give our people information for them to make a decision instead of city council making that decision. City council is here for the people to help them, guide them, and give them information because they are the residents. They're the ones eventually, as I said, taxes are going to fall on.
All right, thank you. Autumn?
Yeah, so I agree in large part with Larry. I think that the issue of fluoridation was obviously a very divisive, it was a very polarizing one in Meadville. I heard very impassioned pleas backed with facts on all sides. But I think that more than anything, it was a prime example of us not giving the opportunity for residents to actually shape the decisions that are made that affect us every day, right? It affects the water we drink, the water we bathe in. And that should have gone to referendum. It should have gone up for folks to have some kind of hands-on participation in that decision making, whether that's at the level of city council, or in this case, the water authority. I think that is the role of elected officials, is to make way for folks to have a seat at the table and to actually have a meaningful role in the decisions that are made for our town. I think fluoride in the water was a prime example, and it could have been a really great opportunity, something that people were really excited about on all sides. It could have been a great opportunity to enact that at first. That would be a priority of mine going forward, priorities of Larry's as well, for folks to have a hands-on role in making decisions.
Thank you. Jan?
Throughout my campaign, I've had the opportunity to discuss many issues with current and former political leaders within the community. I have learned through these discussions the only legal control that the city has over this fluoridation issue is the appointment of the members to the Meadville Water Authority. The Meadville Water Authority has made the determination of fluoridation. I am proud to say that I have attended many of the meetings where this issue was discussed, and I believe both sides in this issue have valued arguments at the time. I am sure the management of the Water Authority will continue to work to improve the quality of the drinking water for their customers, regardless of the fluoridation issue or not. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our second question will start with Larry McKnight, and for that I'm going to turn it over to Rick Lee.
Hi. At least I wanted to start off by thanking you, all four of you, for appearing here tonight. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedules and joining us and sharing your views on the topics here tonight. My first question tonight is, how do you see the role of the city boards and authorities? How would you hold authority members and their staff accountable and ensure they are best serving the community?
A lot of the positions with the city organizations are appointed. Some of the members that are in these positions are there for years. I feel that, again, this is something that our residents should have a say-so in. We don't want people to make a career out of politics and not be able to have new ideas come in. I feel that these positions should be termed, voted in, because a lot of them aren't even advertised. That's one of the problems. People want to get involved, but they don't know how. They don't know how to, or where they go to apply for jobs, if there's jobs even posted. So I think that that's one of the things we should do, make the job announcements more public. I think we should hold the different authorities accountable. There should be a review of their activities, if they're productive or not. They should be held accountable. They should every so often be reviewed. City Council should have the opportunity to make and address changes or be involved in changes if need be in these authorities. I don't think it's fair that just a select certain group of people continue to run different companies that affect everyone. We need new ideas. We need new people in that are going to look, and it's a diverse city. We need diversity in all of our departments. You have older people with ideas. You have new young people graduating from our different colleges that need to be part of it.
Okay, thank you. Autumn?
To expound a bit on one of the points that Larry made, there currently is no set process for appointments to the city's boards, authorities, and commissions. So appointments to authorities is a role that the city council plays, but right now there's no formal process, and there's certainly not one that's publicized and made available to folks. I know several folks who have tried to get on boards, different boards of the city, and have either been not responded to or have been kind of held at bay until someone else came along, that person was appointed, and that was it. Nothing was publicized, and it wasn't made public. It wasn't available for public knowledge. I think that in the governing of our city, that's the first step, and one of the easiest things we can do to make a more transparent government where more people can participate is to standardize a process whereby folks can express their interest to serve in a vacant role on one of the boards, authorities, and commissions: the Water Authority, Market Authority, Sewer Authority, the Recreation Authority. There's great things going on all of these committees, and folks want to be a part of them. So it should be the role of City Council to make that process understandable and publicly known, and to publicize it when the opportunity arises. I also agree with Larry's point that we should install some term limits. We've seen a lot of folks serve many terms, kind of adding up to decades on some of these authorities, and there's opportunity for new folks to get involved. And I agree too with the point of holding these boards and authorities accountable. I think there's role for the City Council to do that as well.
Thank you. Jan?
I take a little different position on this, as the problem the City Council has in some cases is there are some commissions and some, primarily commissions, not as many authorities, where they do have difficult times finding people to become part of these commissions, become part of these boards. These boards and these commissions take time out of people's weekly and monthly schedule. These people that serve on these commissions do that at will. The most important thing that I have found during my campaign, and again, I've kind of approached it at a little different aspect. I've had the opportunity to discuss a lot of these issues with current and former City Council people and the mayor and things like that. These commissions which we have within the city are very numerous. For example, the Shade Tree Commission, the Beautification Commission, all of these commissions provide services for the residents, and all of these people that participate on these boards do this at will. They give their time to the city with no compensation. That's the most important thing to remember, and unfortunately, And I have been at council meetings, and I have been at times when they do not have enough people to actively be part of these commissions. So I think the process that the city has now can always be improved on. I think maybe the communication could be a little bit better, but I really believe that all these people that are on these boards, in these commissions, in these authorities, should actually be given thanks for participating in how the city's run.
Okay, thank you. Jack?
I actually agree a lot with Larry and Autumn. I think that term limits are a good idea. I also believe that the city creating its own formal process makes a lot of sense. I think that it comes down to looking at each authority individually. I know myself, I had a bad experience before I even got involved in this or my Meadville. I tried to apply for, it was in the back of the newspaper. My mother sends me this text message picture, and she's like, hey, look, there's an opening on the Market Authority Board. She's like, do you even know what that is? And I'm like, well, I better go look it up or talk to someone who does. So, you know, you jump through hoops just to figure out what it is in the first place. You have to talk to someone who is in city government that knows what it is. Why isn't this information transparent? Why can't I just get online and look this up and know what the Market Authority Board is? You know, and I never got an email back. I never got contacted or anything like that. I just had this application that sat somewhere just like they're talking about. I think that we need to look at each group individually. So for the Shade Tree Commission, for instance, you don't want people that don't have qualifications in botany or some sort of science field or something. Someone who understands what kind of trees would grow. With the beautification committee, I know that they put all those trees downtown a long time ago. I think it was 20-some years ago. You can't tell me that someone who was more qualified wouldn't have known that those trees were not the appropriate type of trees to be in those places in the first place. I don't think that the technology or the science was so deflated 20 years ago that we couldn't have figured that out if we had a qualified individual in there in the first place.
Okay, thank you. Our next question will go to Autumn. Meadville City Council has stressed more public involvement in key decisions. What are practical ways to make it happen?
Sure. So I believe that public involvement in local decision-making is paramount. It's central to the campaign that I'm running along with Larry. Folks need to have a say in the decisions that are impacting their lives. Folks know what the problems are here, and they can work together to find new answers and new solutions to the problems we face. I think that the role of City Council is to make some of this participation, these opportunities for participation that we've seen in the last few years, to make those a permanent feature of the way we do business here in Meadville. I had the great fortune of being able to coordinate my Meadville. It was a multi-year community listening initiative where by the end of our 3-year process, we came up with a vision and a way to get to that vision for our community. It was developed by hundreds of residents together. And through that process, I saw firsthand how willing people were to roll up their sleeves, to spend their time, and to get some work done for our town, to think outside the box, and to come together over what we have in common to figure out what we can do to solve the problems that we're facing here. Too often that's kind of been relegated to a 3-year project that we had a grant for, and it was just one thing that we're doing once, and we tried it. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. But the spirit of that project, the spirit of that entire process, was to embed itself in the way we go about making decisions here in town. It was to embed itself in the way that boards, authorities, and commissions administer the resources that we have here, the way that we involve our city in our local governance. I think that that is a role that City Council can play.
Thank you. Jan.
The city serves as the Crawford County seat of government and social activities for a large rural region. We are the home of government and school facilities, churches. We have an award-winning medical center and a prestigious college, as well as many social service agencies. The city works well with these organizations, the college and the hospital. I can say that as a fact, as I have personally sat down with the president of Allegheny, the COO of Meadville Hospital, and also the superintendent of Crawford Central Schools. These people all believe that the city works well with them. That is an important thing that the residents and the voters of Meadville need to know. The relationship with these entities at this time is excellent. The city does an extraordinary job of working with them. And the thing that we need to remember is these entities are our largest employers. Between the hospital, the college, Crawford Central Schools, and the county and the state government, they comprise 6 of our top 10 largest employers. Again, I take the view that the city does an excellent job, and the city needs to continue in that positive growth. I do not mean to sound like a cheerleader for the city, but I think the city is a great place to reside.
Thank you, Jan. Jack?
My network of people isn't quite as impressive as Jan's. The people that I know are just mostly average people. You know what I mean? When I became part of when I got the position of vice chair on the Crawford County Democratic Committee, it was because I decided to reconnect with my debate coach from high school. All right, so I call this guy, how can I get more involved? Well, I just had a heart attack, so I'm going to step down, so you should come and get more involved with the Crawford County Democrats. I said, okay. Step one, you know. At the time, I was already involved with my Meadville, and seeing us having this energy, harnessing energy from the community, just everyday people wanting to put in their 2 cents, tell you what they thought. We had in this place that we're having right now, this debate, was filled, front to back. I did a film for my Meadville about it, a short video about it, and it was just amazing to see all these people here. We are harnessing the energy at grassroots levels. People want to participate. We just need to stop putting brick walls in their way.
Thank you. Larry?
We believe that it's City Council's job to make government accessible, easy and accessible to the residents. So if we have to put more ads about jobs, if we have to hold more forums to inform people about these jobs or what's going on, that's part of City Council's job to inform the to help inform the residents. We believe it's City Council's job to make it easier for people to become involved. Again, by not putting up walls, but giving information. The more information a person has, the better decision that they can make, regardless whether it involves them personally, the city, or their homes. So if City Council is doing all that it can to promote and educate people, we'll see a better community. I think it's also very important that people are involved with the budgeting. They need to know, be made aware of how their tax money is being spent. They need to know that there are programs that are accessible to us to help alleviate taxes. We need to let people know that there are other areas and other ways that we can help, and that the city is willing to take these steps to help decrease the cost on the taxpayers here in Meadville.
Thank you.
Jan, we'll start this next question with you. The city of Meadville's got an awful lot of property that's owned by nonprofit entities, yet they're benefiting from city services such as police and fire protection. What can council do to get these nonprofits to pay toward funding services when they don't pay property taxes?
Because I knew this question would be one of those on this forum this evening, I did have an opportunity, as I had stated earlier, to sit down with some of these people from the nonprofits. For example, I sat down with Jim Mullen from the college. I sat down with Philip Pandoff from the hospital. Even though these entities do not pay property tax, they contribute to the well-being of the city in many other ways, just not in an economic impact of taxes. For example, Allegheny College annually gives 50,000 hours of time to internships and other types of programs throughout the city and through other agencies. For example, there's a young man who is now a full-time employee of the city of Meadville who has worked through an internship at Allegheny to increase the GIS system for the city. This development through this young man, just one individual from the college, what he has done, has been able to help the city secure additional grants and programs which they did not have the data collection process in place. The hospital, for example, gives back millions of dollars a year in educational and care programs to the community. As an independent hospital in Meadville, it is important for people to remember they have the opportunities that we would not have if that hospital was owned by a large group such as UPMC or Highmark. Even though these nonprofits and these tax-exempt entities do not pay property tax, their contribution to the city is far greater than what we know.
Yeah. We're going to have to, unfortunately, Jan, we're going to have to stop you at that point. We will come back around. Jack?
I'm sort of on the middle on this issue. I do personally believe that the nonprofits in our community give back a lot. And I think that there's a couple things that, they don't tell you unless you actually go to some of the city council meetings. But I just learned this last year that, for instance, Allegheny College gives what's called a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, about $65,000. Now, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what their property tax would actually be. But I do know that this year they'll be increasing it. I believe it's to $75,000 or $80,000. I'm not quite sure of the figure there. Now, that's just one way that they engage. You look at places like the Center for Family Services, who are out teaching people how to buy homes, and there's just all these organizations. 45% of our tax base, okay, it is a large number, but it's something that has made Meadville, I think, in a lot of ways, as wonderful of a place as it is. Maybe it means our taxes are a little bit higher, but you don't have so many people in one place that care so much about other people without there being these kind of institutions in place.
Thank you. Larry?
Well, I believe that I agree with Jack. The college and some of the tax-exempt places do give back. But I think we need to do an assessment. There hasn't been an assessment done in quite a long time. There needs to be a property reassessment redone. And he said, he threw out a number, was it $60,000 or $50,000? Sure, that's a drop in the bucket. 40% of the properties in Meadville are tax exempt. That's churches, hospitals, colleges, and nonprofits. The remaining 60% are residents, and that's where the taxes are coming from, on the backs of the residents. So if we are going to continue with this pilot program, then we need to look at it and hold these different tax-exempt companies and positions more accountable. They should be paying more. They get the same service, if not better service, by looking at some of the streets in the different areas of Allegheny College and all. They get the same service from the fire department, from the police department, that the local people that are paying taxes get. So that's something we need to do, is look at this pilot program. There's also other ways to get money. There's state and federal money, again, that is available that we could be tapping into that would cut back the tax base on the residents. We're not doing that. We're not utilizing that. That needs to be done. We need to take the time and the opportunity to look at different ways of increasing our revenue without raising taxes.
Thank you. Autumn?
Currently, the property tax burden is unfair. There's no doubt about it, right? The statistics have kind of been thrown out. It's 40% of our properties in Meadville are tax exempt, leaving 60% of the properties paying 100%, right? Carrying 100% of that cost. As has been stated, right, some of these larger nonprofit organizations that do undoubtedly contribute a great deal to our community, they do participate in a pilot program. They pay payments in lieu of taxes each year. I do think it's good to hear that at least one of those will be renegotiated and will be increased. I think that there's opportunity maybe to do that with some of the other larger nonprofits that are participating in that payment in lieu of taxes program. And as Larry mentioned too, there's also other opportunities to bring in revenue for the city. The city has said itself in its own comprehensive plan that we're not doing as good of a job as we could be in bringing in grant funds to this community. If we brought in more money, if we made that a priority, that can help shift where our tax dollars are going, so we don't maybe feel that burden quite as heavily on the 60% of the kind of Meadville property owners that are paying that. Additionally, we can enact fees. We've started to do that with the stormwater management fee, which is assessed based on the amount of square footage that you occupy, not based on whether or not you're taxable or tax exempt. Other communities have done a fire assessment fee, right? And these fees would be things that, these fees would be paid whether or not you're taxable. And that's a way to kind of level the playing field and again, alleviate some of that tax burden that we see in our community.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Jack. And the county recently released a comprehensive housing plan that points out that Meadville has a lot of aging housing stock, and there's also a large number of vacant or abandoned properties. If you're on council, how are you going to address these challenges?
To me, that's something that I've actually been kind of focusing on thinking about. I think we talk about taxes a lot, as we did in the last question. But one of the ways that I think we can offset that tax burden is with code enforcement. And I think that's a way that you fight blight as well. I know that the city is going to be starting having someone that goes and actually does this on a regular basis, goes out and looks at blight and cites the properties. And not only, like I said, is that a way to offset some of the tax cost, it fights blight. It forces people to manage their properties better. You know, same reason you don't speed when you're going down the highway.
Thank you. Larry?
I agree with Jack. I feel that there needs to be a stronger code enforcement. It will protect not only the landlords, it would protect the renters as well. We have a problem where some of the landlords are absent. They don't take care of their homes. They're there to pick up the monthly rent from the tenants. They don't do any repairs, and if they do repairs, to the minimum. There's also grants, home grants for rental assistance. There's low-income housing rehab through the U.S. government or HUD. There's homeowner financing programs through Pennsylvania Housing Finance that we should be looking into to help parents of young families find these homes, pay for these homes. There's programs that we can initiate that would rehab homes that future teachers, firefighters, or doctors, or anyone that wanted to come here and live could apply for these grants and help rehab some of these houses. If a company wants to relocate here, one of the things they want to make sure is that there is adequate and safe housing for their employees. They're not going to relocate when there's not housing for their employees. If the streets aren't taken care of, they want to see these things. That's what we need to look at. We need to find ways that we can help bring in state and federal money to our area to rehab housing.
Thank you. Autumn?
15% of the properties in Meadville are classified as deteriorated, and that's a classification by our own city. So there's no doubt that deterioration, blighted properties, and aging housing stock is certainly an issue here in Meadville. I agree that increased code enforcement can help to curb some of the negative effects that we're seeing, some of the slum and blight. Unfortunately, external code enforcement, the kind where someone can drive around and see that the paint is chipping on your house or the windows are broken, unfortunately, that kind of external code enforcement disproportionately kind of penalizes low-income renters, elderly homeowners, and folks who are differently abled, right? So what a code enforcement, a kind of comprehensive code enforcement in this city would look like that could that could appropriately kind of combat the slum and blight that we're seeing, it would have to be internal as well as external. And I think the way that we go about doing this internal code enforcement is through a rental inspection program. Our own City Planning and Zoning Commission proposed such a program in 2009. It was never enacted, but such a program would make certain that all of our rental properties in Meadville would be regularly inspected, and code would be enforced inside these properties as well as outside of these properties to kind of balance that both internal and external blight and deterioration of our aging housing stock.
All right, thank you. Jan?
Unfortunately, a lot of the programs that were in place from the state and the federal government to aid cities like Meadville in these types of improvements has been drastically reduced. One of those programs, in fact, has been cut in half within the last 10 years to the city of Meadville. So the city of Meadville is forced, in some cases, to use these funds that were used previously for slum and blight housing to get a larger impact on the community. As some people within the community do not realize, the number of low to moderate income people within a community determines the access of some of these funds. These funds are available through other government agencies, which also are affected by the same problems that Meadville has. In answer to these questions, it is not an easy solution. As my other candidates have mentioned, a lot of the landlords are not present within the community. They do not maintain their properties. But again, we need to realize with the financial situation the city of Meadville is in, they are doing whatever they can to work within the parameters they have. The city cannot control individual landlords in many ways.
All right, thank you.
Okay, the next question goes to Larry. Last summer, Meadville City Council restricted access to Diamond Park's gazebo because of vandalism. Now using the gazebo requires a permit for a fee. Do you think this was the right move?
In regards to the vandalism, I disagree with the vandalism. I also disagree with the fact that City Council is restricting public property from the public. I think there's other avenues that we could have done. I'm not condoning the vandalism at all. I think it's wrong, but to make people pay for a permit to go into a public park it doesn't make sense. I don't understand it, the logic behind it. If it's a public park, how can you charge me to come into the public park? I think there's a big problem with our public spaces. There's not enough money invested in them. Our parks aren't like they used to be. As a kid, when I grew up here, there were parks in every ward. They were mandated. They were watched over by Allegheny College students that came in and taught. They made sure that we had a safe place to go. So I feel that City Council should be looking for ways to make the parks accessible, not block them off. Some of the people that go there can't afford the permits or just want to go just to have a good time. So are you saying that every time a group of people get there, they have to get a permit? I don't know. I think that's something that needs to be looked into further by City Council and by the residents. We need input from the residents to help with it, to make a decision on this.
Okay, thank you. Autumn.
No, I don't think it was the right move. I did a lot of things as community development coordinator and my Meadville project coordinator, but one of my proudest accomplishments was for about 2 weeks the chain came off of the gazebo, and it was like the most beautiful time of my entire life. And people were having dinner up there, and kids were dancing, and people could get out of the rain, and it was wonderful, and it was really great, and it was a magical time. And then, some people made stupid decisions, and now we're all paying for it. And that is an unfortunate reality in life. I understand liability. I understand wanting to kind of protect our historic markers, but it's the city's job to make our public spaces open and welcoming, and I don't think a chain does that.
Thank you. Jan.
Sadly, the reason the chains were put up around the gazebo was for the fact that the gazebo was vandalized. There were individuals using the gazebo for things that were not beneficial to the overall well-being of the community. The city has a liability to protect all of its citizens as well as its property. This is just a perfect example of how we are faced with a society today that causes us to make these types of decisions. I agree with everyone on this forum. It's a difficult decision. It's sad to say that it had to be done, but unfortunately, it's not a result of the city government. It's a result of certain individuals that made it happen.
Thank you. Jack?
I think this is a tough question. I mean, personally, I didn't like seeing it there. I know that the gazebo was paid for by a trust that was set up by someone years ago, and I don't like the thought of someone's money that was set aside to pay for this thing and to upkeep this object just being poured into it every time someone vandalizes it. If it happens regularly, well, what do you do about it? I mean, for one thing, I think that the police station being right there and it still getting vandalized on a regular basis is kind of strange. But I do know that when you look at the rest of the community, when we build benches and we build trash cans for the community, they have to be built to a specification where they can't be stolen, because we've learned from our mistakes, because people have stolen benches and trash cans from the community, which is really unfortunate that those kind of things happen. So do you just wait until people get better, or do you hang up a sign? I think that what it comes down to is asking the constituents. It shouldn't be my decision, it should be your decision.
Okay, thank you. Next question will go to Autumn. People in Meadville repeatedly say they want good-paying jobs in this region. What can council do to encourage job growth?
Sure. So creating jobs and growing the economy are our top priorities. We often hear this fallacy that the tax breaks are going to do that. There's little evidence that suggests that this is true, right? So there's little evidence out there that says that providing any kind of tax cut to a corporation is actually going to attract them to an area. What does attract employers to a region are quality homes, quality public infrastructure, good roads, good schools, and good programs for their people to use. Investing in our public infrastructure, in housing, parks, schools, roads, utilities, and water systems, that's the stuff that's going to grow our economy, right? So that's the things that's going to make this region a more attractive place for employers to kind of lay down roots. I'm not making this stuff up. This came from our own city's comprehensive plan, right, that says that housing is a top priority that we must address if we are going to be any kind of center for business growth, for business attraction, and for kind of the subsequent boom in employment that we could see from that. And how great is it that in the meantime we can improve the quality of life for the people living here? So I think that the role that the city can play is to ensure quality housing and quality public resources for the folks that live here, and to make this a more attractive place.
Thank you. Jan?
What the city of Meadville needs to do is institute an actual marketing plan to get people to be interested to come to Meadville. Again, I do not want to sound like a cheerleader for the city, but with a well-developed, formulated plan of all the existing resources in Meadville, we can achieve this. First and foremost, we have employment opportunities that exist within Meadville and Crawford County that are well-paying industrial manufacturing jobs. We have employers in the area right now that are looking for engineers for aerospace and robotics. These are high-income positions. They will enable residents to purchase single-family homes to increase our tax base, and in most cases contribute to the local economy. There is a program in place through entities in the community, both government and industrial, to work with this. We need to emphasize the fact that Meadville is a secure area. That is due to the fact that we have a full-time police force with an excellent response time compared to some other communities that need to use state police to back up their own police forces. Families deserve to have this safety. We also need to market our award-winning independent medical center, which provides not only superior health care, but extensive community programs for the community. The third thing we need to look at is we are an excellent entertainment and cultural district, which we can provide to young urban professionals.
Thank you. Jack?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that I've been attending the zoning hearing board, or the planning commission meetings for the city, which have been really eye-opening, a lot of the things that we're going to be doing. I think one of the big things that's going to help business growth in Meadville specifically is going to be the update to our zoning maps. When we start rezoning areas of the city, it's going to make it more accessible for businesses to come in the first place, whereas other times they have to go through jumping through hoops just to start a business in a place. I think another thing that we need to continue doing is bringing up our small businesses. I mean, when you create positive-looking economic corridors, that's one of the biggest things that draws people to an area in the first place. You come down Chestnut Street, it already looks gorgeous. What place can we work with next? I think a really underutilized resource, and I know that there was a man that came to the community, I want to say about a year ago, named Roger Willis, who talked about really using French Creek and the waterway as a place to promote business and utility in this community. And I think that is something that I would jump on like a train. I mean, there's so much potential that seems to be unused. We have these big stretches of industrialized areas that aren't even really being used as much anymore. Old train tracks and different things, and why aren't we turning that into something valuable to this community?
Thank you. Larry?
Well, our 2013 comprehensive plan points to housing as one of the biggest factors for economic success. And it states that housing is directly connected to economic development, and if housing is not up to par, companies will not locate for fear their workers don't have a place to live. That's our own comprehensive plan for Meadville. So again, one of the things, most important things, if we invest in our housing, if we invest and have our landlords, our tenants, taking care of houses, if we get funding from the state and federal government for housing, companies are going to look at coming here. This is nothing I've made up. This is Meadville's comprehensive plan. The city is even saying this. So why aren't we doing this? Why are we not going after funds to rehab homes? That's the bottom line. Companies will come where their employees can live comfortably. In doing so, you're going to increase your services, your emergency services that you're offering. I don't see why it's such a big deal when you've done a study that tells you what to do. You're not utilizing it. That's what we need to do. We have record, we have proof, it's in black and white. Why aren't we doing the information we found? Why aren't we utilizing it? I don't know. I don't understand what's going on. Some people may disagree with it, but this is something that the city of Meadville wrote and came up with.
Thank you. Our next question will go to Jan. Should an elected official or candidate for office be held accountable for their posts on social media? Why or why not?
I would say that not only candidates or political figures should be held responsible for their posts on social media. All individuals should be held for their posts on social media. Social media has become a very important part of society today. Unfortunately, some people take advantage of it. And again, I think social media has many, many advantages. As a candidate, as a political figure, we are representative of our voters, of our residents. So we need to definitely be held accountable.
I would say yes, that's true.
Thank you. Jack?
Definitely. I'm an Eagle Scout and a dad. I mean, if I just go online and start posting heinous things, someone's going to say something at school. I mean, it's like, I don't want it to come off as it's like, well, I could get in trouble for it. It's not like that, but it's just, you have to set a better example. And as a city council, whether you're on a board, any engagement in the community, really, you're setting an example, and I would be a terrible example if I went and said rude things online to people that could hear me. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree with Jack. I think, yeah, especially as being a representative of the city, you should be held accountable. I think as a person, you want to hold yourself accountable, that you know, some things are better left unsaid. That's the way I was brought up. If I have a hard time with somebody, I'm not going to blast them on Facebook or whatever. I'm going to go to that individual. That's the way I would go about it. Using Facebook to belittle someone, it's immature. I don't feel it's right. I think that everyone should be held accountable, whether you're on city council or just as a honest, responsible person. I just think that it's wrong to use Facebook to say something you wouldn't say to a person's face.
Thank you. Autumn?
Sure. I don't know. It seems like a strange question, and it seems like it's one that has like a particular answer, like saying no is like the wrong answer, and that feels very like apparent right now. Yeah, we should all be held accountable for the things we say on Facebook. Recognizing though that some people are more open books on Facebook than other folks, and I'm saying Facebook, but that's what I use most, and that's what a lot of people in Meadville use most. Social media more generally. Sure. What I think though, what is more exciting to me about social media is the opportunity that it gives to us to connect people and to organize. A lot of the stuff that's been going on in town has been organized through Facebook. We've done pop-up cleanup events. We've had park parties and Winterfest celebrations that have seen probably no other kind of public announcements outside of social media. So that's where people are right now. It's you hold people just as accountable as you would anywhere else. It's doing great things for Meadville, though. I understand that people have different opinions about it, but some exciting stuff has been able to happen because of it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Jack. Jack, there's a lot of, we've been talking about problems with housing, the lack of affordable housing. Should the city of Meadville move toward adopting a rent control ordinance?
I mean, part of me wants to say yes, but at the same time, as someone who was a libertarian before he was a Democrat, I have a hard time seeing that kind of heavy-handed control. I do believe that something has to be done, and in fact, I've been talking with Autumn for a long time about the idea of having a rental inspection crew. I think that's something that sets up at least an improvement in conditions to living spaces, and it prevents people from renting places at egregious prices that are in terrible conditions at the same time. Do I think necessarily we need rent control? I think that we're a little bit too small for that right now. That kind of heavy-handed thing, I think, only needs to be used when something becomes so out of control that there are not a whole lot of alternatives.
Thank you. Larry?
I agree with a lot of what Jack said. We need to ensure that the rental properties are safe, livable, and affordable. But we also have to look out for the landlords. To be honest, you have some tenants that go in, they tear up a house. then they move to the next place. So it would be wrong to continuously put that burden on the landlords to every 6 months or however often it is to go in to have to repair a house that someone has torn up. On the other side of that, though, we do have to hold the landlords accountable that these houses are in good condition, and by that, as Jack said, some type of inspection where the code enforcement maybe goes through and inspects the interior of the home and exterior, because you want the structure just as safe as you do the exterior. We don't want our firefighters going in to homes where the roofs are sagging and there's possibility of them caving in. So I think, again, working with city council and with landlords and education of tenants, I think we can come to a solution where everybody can benefit from housing.
Autumn?
57% of Meadville rents their homes, and according to the county's most recent housing study that was just released, 52.5% of those renters are cost burdened, meaning they pay more than a third of their monthly income towards rent. This is a huge problem in our community, and this is something that is facing the majority of people. I think that we certainly need to prioritize the needs of those residents and to hear from them. I certainly think that protecting them from any kind of spike in rent is something that the city can and should do. What that exactly looks like, I think I would have to do more research on and hear from folks and hear from people's experience, maybe see what's working in other communities before I kind of necessarily committed to whether or not a cap like that would work here. I think something that would work here, as has been mentioned, is the rental inspection program, and I certainly think it would work here because, again, it was proposed by our own planning and zoning, commission in 2009. And so I think we also kind of have to do a good job of listening to the folks that we've entrusted to make some of these decisions when they're making recommendations to our community and to our leaders. As well as listening to the folks on the ground.
Thank you. Jen?
Through my discussions with numerous past and present city officials, I have found that the city of Meadville is very limited in what they can mandate to private property owners to charge for individual rents, just as they cannot mandate to a business owner what they charge for their goods sold, or to a homeowner of what their single-family residence should be sold for. In the past, the city has tried to institute an inspection program. This was met with much resistance, and in fact, it was one of the council meetings that had the largest public attendance of any in recent history. What the city can do is work with programs such as HUD and Section 8 to provide necessary services for citizens that rent. It is not uncommon for cities that are county seats to have a large percentage of low to moderate income renters within their population. The reason being that the services available through government and social agencies are ones that these people need on a daily basis. What the city can do is work within the programs we have in place, the nonprofits such as CHAP, Center for Family Services, and county agencies to improve the quality of these programs and also to aid these renters in getting some assistance. Sadly, there is not a quick solution.
Thank you. I'm going to go with our last question of the evening, and then we'll let the candidates do closing statements. We're going to start with Larry. Larry, where do you see the city of Meadville in the next 5 to 10 years? What kind of vision do you have for the city over the next 5 to 10 year period?
I would love to see the city of Meadville grow. I would love to be able to ride down the street and see beautiful streets, lighting, well-lit streets, even some of your smaller alleyways taken care of. I ride through some of the alleyways. I live in an alleyway where for 3 months someone put a couch, it set out in the road. The plow trucks went around it. I like to see people take more pride in Meadville. I like to see our parks, our resources brought back. I like to see ride down the street and hear kids laughing, playing in the parks, safe parks. I like to see businesses grow here. But that all will come, I believe, if we are improving the availability of houses and make sure that the housing is secure, I think all that, by bringing companies here, all that in turn will grow.
Thank you. Autumn?
I think that my vision for the city of Meadville is the same as a lot of people's vision for the city in the future. I want to see a thriving Meadville. I want to see a vibrant Meadville. I want to see a Meadville with a bustling downtown and a vibrant civic life where folks are able to participate in the decisions that affect their lives. I want to see a transparent, inclusive government that makes it easy for people to step into roles on boards, authorities, and commissions by standardizing and publicizing a process for them to join that organization. I want the city to extend on the groundwork that was laid by the My Meadville project, this process of community listening that together lets us develop a shared vision based on our shared values. I think that there's a lot more that we can do along those lines to, again, kind of institute and embed that process into the way that we do business here in town. I see a Meadville in the future and where everyone has access to housing that's safe and affordable, and where everyone has access to quality public spaces. There's a park in their neighborhood that folks are excited to take their kids to, happy to let them play in, and excited to use and engage in. I want a government that works for all of us, and that's my vision for the future of Meadville.
Thank you. Jan, same question to you.
My vision for Meadville is one that continues the revitalization that is taking place right now. The citizens of Meadville have come to expect a high level of service from their government. For example, our downtown revitalization program is something to be proud of, and it will continue to grow. It is one of the reasons why I chose to live in downtown Meadville. We have a unique group of shops, and visitors from far outside of Crawford County come to these shops. They take part in our dining experiences. Meadville is in a growth mode right now. Sure, we have problems, but all cities have problems. I think the most important thing is we need to develop relationships with our residents, with our major employers, with our nonprofits, and continue the positiveness that is happening in Meadville. Meadville is a great place. We need to focus on the positives. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jack?
I definitely like to see more streets like North Street. The park programs I would like to see return in full force. I know that last year we kind of just trialed it. But my son's 2, so sooner than later, that's going to be something that will be a wonderful thing to have access to for myself as well as other young families in the community. I'd love to see a small population bump in Meadville, since, you know, pretty much every small town in Pennsylvania has been decreasing since 1950. I'd love to see the continued growth of the downtown. I think that we have really done a good job at working with local businesses and providing opportunities for them in the community, and that's something that the government now should feel good about. I think that we also do need to focus on housing, as it's been something that kind of has been, we've just spent so much time focusing on the economic corridor that I feel like there have been other things in our community that have kind of been left by the wayside, which isn't to say that we shouldn't focus on the economic corridor, just that we need to spread our tendrils out. And one really big thing for me is we have a lot of really wonderful service organizations in the community here. I know from time to time they work together with the local government, but I would really like to see a more positive relationship with these service organizations, the Kiwanis, the Rotary Club, the Lions Club. You accomplish more together, and when you already have people with good ideas in the community and they have ideas and they have funding, there's no reason that the city can't work hand in hand with them to make things that people in the community already want to see done.
Thank you. Well, that's going to conclude our questioning for the evening. We're now going to give each candidate up to 2 minutes to make a closing statement. We're going to go in reverse order from where we began, so we'll begin with Jan. Jan, you have up to 2 minutes.
I would again like to thank the Meadville Tribune, Armstrong Cable, Cool 101.7, and the viewers at home, and also those in attendance this evening for giving us an opportunity to participate in this evening's forum. In the course of my campaign, I have had the opportunity to listen to many Meadville residents. They told me their unique histories and stories, and I've learned that we always share a respect and pride for Meadville. It is our backgrounds, our contributions, and our experiences that are the threads that connect us and make us a great city. I will draw upon my past experience working on economic development and municipal government issues, along with my manufacturing and sales and marketing experience to help the city grow. When elected, I will continue to maximize government services, support our unique local businesses, work to attract new businesses and employees, and revitalize local investment. I will work to grow our community wealth, to build upon the great works of those that have come before me, and to make our city an even better place to live, work, and raise a family. Remember, when you consider voting for me, I have seen other communities that have failed to reach their potential because of apathy, because of an inability to cultivate what is positive, and fail to plan for the long term. I am passionate about this community. I recognize and appreciate what is already in place. As a member of City Council, I will be one voice among 5 to help guide the city. Throughout the course of my life, I have worked to serve in a capacity where people of different backgrounds, philosophies, and interests work together for one common goal. I am proud what I have learned throughout the course of my life. I have humbly asked you for your vote and allow me to serve you as Meadville City Council person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Autumn, you're up next.
It's a really special time in Meadville right now. I don't know if other people can feel it, but I can feel it. There's just really great stuff happening. There's really good work that's been done, and we're starting to kind of see a change. We're seeing this uptick, this momentum, and things happening in town, things happening downtown, and people taking an interest, a sense of ownership, and feeling involved, wanting to be involved here, wanting to stay here, wanting to come back. I've had the really great fortune, I think, of getting to have a chance to be part of a network of people that are working really hard to make some of this stuff happen. We've worked hard on the ground, day in and day out, for the last few years to make this the case. I've done this through my work with My Meadville and through creating a shared vision for our town, again, that's based on our shared values, the things that we value in common about living here in this very special place, Meadville, Pennsylvania. And I think what's most important for me is that My Meadville and that process, as I've said several times tonight, not be relegated to a 2-year project that we had grant funding for and it was great and now it's done, but rather that we take that process and we embed it into the way that we operate here, the way that we make decisions, the way that we set priorities, and the way that we create a shared vision for our town. And we can do this through participatory governance. Other communities are doing it. They're making it easy for folks to get involved, for us to explore new ideas, to take some risks. The only way we're going to to solve the problems that face us and seize the opportunities that are being presented to us right now is by doing this, is by taking a risk, is by trying new things, is by getting new folks at the table. Larry and I are committed to a participatory governance. And if elected, we'd make it our priority to make it easy for folks to get involved in solving problems and making decisions together. We're asking for both of your votes on May 21st. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry?
As Autumn said, we are both running on the same ticket. We have the same ideas. And for me, I'm a lifelong resident of Meadville. I know how great Meadville was as a kid growing up. I can remember the street dances that they had at the Diamond Park. I can remember going out to Connet Lake. I just remember Meadville being a place that you felt safe, you felt at home at. People would come from out of town here to have picnics, family reunions. That's what I want again. We can do that. We're in the process of changing. We see things getting better. We are a new group. Autumn and I are doing something totally different. She has a lot of great ideas. She's been involved with a lot of planning already in Meadville. I'm from my heart. I love this town. I've had the opportunity to go away to different places. I come back here because this is home. I want the same type of comfort for me, for the kids that are coming up, for Jack's kids, for everyone else that wants to have kids here. I want that same comfort. I like the fact that when I was growing up, we had Allegheny College students come in, take their time from summer and teach us, take us to learn different things. I want to give that back to the younger generations. I want to see the businesses that are here continue to grow, bring new businesses in. I want Meadville to be the Meadville that it once was and that people want to come and stay.
Thank you. Jack?
I actually agree with Larry on a lot of that. So when before I decided that I wanted to settle down here and put down roots, I told myself I need to see as many other places as I possibly can before I decide I really want to put down roots somewhere. So I have about 4 states left, I think, and it was a good experience, but I still wanted to be back here. I still wanted to come back to this community. I still wanted to take part. I still wanted to have a home, start a family, and that's been a great opportunity. And there is a lot of positive momentum in this community, and that's something that we should harness because it seems so much more often in our society that it's negativity that motivates people to want to promote change. We have an opportunity to harness positivity to create change in our community. And that's kind of what the soul of this country is all about. Local races, every vote is important. So I just want everyone to know that if I hear somebody say, well, my vote doesn't count, well, out of the like 800 to 1,200 votes it takes to get through this election, I would say that your vote is very, very important. This is a wonderful community. It's vibrant and resilient, and I'm very happy that I started my family here. So I hope everybody votes on May 21st.
Thank you very much. Now, tonight's forum is going to be shown on Armstrong Cable's Channel 23 and 100. The first rebroadcast will be on Wednesday, May 15th at 9 p.m. It's also going to be shown Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m., and my guess is if you wake up in the middle of the night and turn on the TV, you'll probably find it as well. Now, it's going to be one of several repeats. Not at the risk of repeating myself, though, we do want to thank the candidates for appearing tonight, Jack Harkless, Larry McKnight, Autumn Vogel, Jan Douglas, and for their willingness to take some questions from us. We did not show them any questions in advance, but they obviously had studied up on some of the issues facing the city. We hope we gave you some information that will help you make a decision during the May 21st primary. On behalf of Rick Green and the Meadville Tribune, I'm Keith Gushard. Have a good evening.